Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So, that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Tiffany D. Jackson. Tiffany is the award-winning New York Times best-selling author of several young adult novels, including White Smoke and The Weight of Blood. She's also the author of one of my favorite holiday picture books, Santa in the City. She's here today to talk about her thrilling middle grade debut, Blood in the Water. It's a can't put it down murder mystery set on Martha's Vineyard that blends the beautiful location with rich Black history. I couldn't put it down, and I can't wait to talk about it with her, so let's get right to the episode. Tiffany, welcome to KidLit Love. I am so excited you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I already joked before we hit record that I could just fangirl right now. I am so excited. Like, you wrote a picture book about Christmas, and I feel like a kid on Christmas because I get to talk to you about Kidlit. So just putting that out there. Thank you for coming to
I
me.
appreciate it. I do.
So I would love to start with you as I start all of the episodes. I did talk about a couple of the titles. You're well known for your books in YA, and this is your first middle grade release. So I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of the backstory about you and your books and your journey through children's literature.
So, where do I even begin? Like that, I'm sure every author says that. But I guess I can start by saying that I always wanted to be an author. Like this has been a dream of mine since I was 4 years old, and I knew it very specifically. Like I knew the moment I wanted to be an author. So to be here today living this dream is still very incredibly surreal to me. I guess where I came into to fast forward to how I got into Kid Lit is sort of like I stumbled into this into here when I first was writing my first book allegedly back in 2012. I was um, writing it and sending it out and pitching to agents, and I was getting rejection after rejection, and I just was sort of feeling like I was going to give up. And when I finally talked to my mentor at the time, and I said, "Yeah, I'm done," and she said, "Well, what is your book about again?" And I explained it. She said, "Well, it sounds like a young adult novel," and I said, "What's that?" And no, I had truly no idea what young adult kind of like was. And I remember leaving my job at the time. I was working at Fuse TV. I left the studio and took the train down to a Barnes and Nobles in Union Square and went to the section that was labeled young
Wow.
adult. And I just sort of sat there and flipped through every single young adult book. I went to like the acknowledgement page and found the agent, and I was trying to like figure out what books like where I was on the shelf. Um, it was still pretty hard to figure out because it was a lot of fantasy,
Mhm.
a lot of contemporaries, but nothing specific that like was in a thriller or a horror genre. Some assassin stories, or, stuff like that, spies, but nothing that kind of that I fit into. But I still was like, okay, fine, I will, do what I can. And I did sort of relabel this young adult, went back out to agents, and within like maybe 12 agents that I first pitched to, I got an offer. And I was still sort of stunned by this, like, "Are you sure that this is YA?" I was like, I could not imagine because some of my stuff felt very dark. But then later on, when I was really truly thinking about it, when I think about my own sort of reading journey, I read a lot of dark books, books that probably were not age appropriate. I literally went from Arnold Stein to Stephen King and nothing in between. Like, I really didn't have
Yeah.
books that really were for me. Um, and so in a way, I think I actually was always supposed to write in young adult because I was always supposed to sort of fill this void
Yeah.
that especially, being able to, as a Black woman, be able to see myself on the page is incredibly important. Um, and and so I think that that's probably what we're like the biggest thing that's happened for me is realizing like, no, actually I was always supposed to write in this little like blank space
Yeah.
there for especially like young Tiffany's who are out there. So that was sort of like the journey. But the journey to get to this particular book, Blood in the Water, which is my first middle grade, kind of came within the journey of being a YA author. I would go to, I'll be on tour for a lot of my YA books, and a lot of my books are, dark. They have like crazy plot twists and stuff like that. And I would go on tour and in the audience would be like, a couple little like 10, 11-year olds holding my book. And I would be like, no, that's too adult for you. Like, give me that back. And I felt very sort of hypocritical because I do feel like maturity is very subjective. It depends on your environment and everything. I still felt like, oh, you guys are missing this. And
Mhm.
then and then it really hit me. It was like, oh, you know what? I would have been your age when I was looking for books like this. So yeah, you would be kind of moving up in the world. And so, or reading up, I should say. And so that's what made me sort of like turn my focus and attention to them and say, like, hey, let me write a middle grade that still is thrilling and compelling. But then I once again like could not find me on the shelves. Like there really aren't a lot of middle grade thrillers out there, specifically middle grade. There's plenty of mysteries and some, fantasies, obviously, but no middle grade thrillers. Definitely hard, but nothing in that category. So it was once again kind of like, starting from scratch. And so I somewhat feel like a whole new author here. Like I'm a newbie, even though like I'm 10, 11 books deep. I still feel like, oh no, this is, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes, you do.
I'm like, I don't know how to write this thing. Like, I know oftentimes I would always laugh and be like, what is the difference? When people say, what is the biggest difference between young adults and middle grade? And I've sort of like formulated down to simple science is that young adults, it's teens who are finding out about themselves. But in middle grade, it's kids finding out about the And I think there's a big distinction where when you are finding out about yourself, about your inner conflict and what you're like kind of going through in life and how that applies to how you deal with the world and the adult you are ultimately going to be versus middle grade, it's with kids who are learning about the world and how it's not actually perfect.
Yeah.
Like the adults that, like you're finding out about Santa. Some kids are still finding out about Santa around this age. Like the bubble is somewhat popped, and then your lens is widened, and you have to figure things out. But you're not young enough to play with baby toys, but you're not old enough to, be in teenage streets. So you're in this like very perilous middle ground, and you're trying to figure out how to. You're trying to just figure things you become so surprised by everything. So I can babble on and on about like the differences, but that's like the main kind of goal there is to define like defining what they should be looking for and what their like main focus and goals are as middle grade. So that has been like the biggest difference. But yeah, that's been like my journey to writing Blend. It's been a fantastic journey, a crazy one, a long one, but fantastic nonetheless.
I just love how, well, I don't love for you that you got so many rejections in the beginning, but I love that it was all of those rejections that led you to where you were originally supposed to be all along. That
Right.
that just makes the I imagine the heartbreak of multiple rejections like so validating that okay, it was just moving me to this section of the field, the section of the market, the section of readers that
Oh,
needed me.
yeah. Because I think I often say this, after some, my perilous years in my early publishing years, is that redirection is nothing but, I mean, rejection is nothing but redirection in the right direction. And I'm 100% grateful for all the rejection. At the time, obviously, it doesn't feel good. But then once you realize where you're actually supposed to be, like, thank God I did listen to, like, a couple of agents who said, like, don't read those. And thank God I didn't, like, listen to that one agent who wanted to change the ending of my novel. Like, there's a lot of things that was saved by rejection. And I don't think I would be here today in this capacity and talking to you if I wasn't rejected multiple times. So I think I kind of leave those words of encouragement, especially um, to writers. Yeah, writers are trying to kind of like establish themselves, like aspiring writers, especially.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I feel like there isn't a middle grade novel like this. There hasn't been a genre like this. This book, I mean, I'm an adult reader reading a book, and I've got to be honest, Tiffany, in my adult reading space, thrillers are not my go-to because
Mhm.
I get this pants scared off of me on those. And I get so emotional and I feel them. So I have to be careful around thrillers. This this novel though, I could not wait to dive in. I couldn't stop turning the pages. And it's middle grade, yes, but let me tell you, there is all the thriller that does come along with a
Mhm.
YA kind of text. There's real stuff in here.
Yeah, yeah.
There's real blood in the water. There's such a realness to it that I imagine this group of kids is just thinking, oh, finally, like this is what I get to read. Oh, tell listeners about it. Give us an overview in your words about the book. And then we'll dive into kind of the details behind it that I can't wait to ask.
Okay. So, Blood in the Water is about a young Brooklyn girl named Kalani who has to spend a few weeks of her summer vacation at a family friend's home in Martha's Vineyard after her father's recent unfairly incarceration. But when a popular boy is found murdered at a infamous beach on the island of Martha's Vineyard, Kalani finds that she has to help her friend solve the mystery, but then learns that there are a lot of dark secrets, one that can truly change her. Um, so it definitely has its own chills.
It does. It does. It's not a book that just glosses like, oh yeah, someone died and the kids move on, but it's it's getting into the pieces, but I love how it's getting into the history behind it, the location behind it, the secrets behind it, the character development behind it. Why Martha's Vineyard set for this? I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, so Martha's Vineyard is known for being somewhat of a Black oasis since the early 1800s. It's one of the first places in the United States that allowed free Black slaves to live peacefully in land and sort of build community there. And thus, a lot of homes and sort of somewhat of the upper echelon of Black society live there and vacation there. And one of the things I realized over the years, gone to Martha's Vineyard with my family over the last like 20 something years, it is so just beautiful and peaceful. It feels like you're in your own world. You're surrounded by, gorgeous trees, hydrangeas, and like beautiful cottages. You're eating ice cream, lobster rolls. You went to the beach, and you're just in such paradise. And you're riding around on your beautiful kind of like beach bikes. And then all I kept thinking to myself is like, what would it be like to add some danger in here? And that's honestly, that's how this goes. Like, I mean, and I think I've kind of like learned from the best about like, setting mysteries and horror, on an island that you can't escape from. Like that's it's my favorite part of like how we can't escape, so we have to deal with it. So yeah, that's kind of where the idea sort of sprung from in terms of Marcus Vineyard. So the book itself definitely talks a lot about the history of Martha's Vineyard, and Kalani gets to kind of go on heritage shores and learn about like definitely different facts. And that's one of the things that I realized that middle grade kids love. They love facts, like random facts. Like, they'll just tell you random things about like did you know that the cheetah could do X, Y? Like that is our favorite thing to do. And that honestly is what I love about this book is that there's so much history and so many like factoids that they can take away from. And it's Black history wrapped up in entertainment. And I think that that's incredibly important.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because the mystery itself of figuring it out and unraveling it is so intricately tied into the history and
Yeah.
how people came into Martha's Vineyard, into the home, into all of the places. I love that. I can see, well, it kept this adult reader on her toes. It's definitely going to kind of enrapture the middle grade readers. And you have that going on alongside Kalani, who is this just lovable character who she reminds me a lot of me when I was a kid because first of all, we didn't have cell phones and I didn't lie and I was the good girl, right? I always
Yeah.
did what I was
Yeah.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
But she feels, completely out of place. She hasn't experienced Martha's Vineyard before, and everyone is like, wait, what? You don't have a cell phone? Wait, what? Who are you listening
Yes.
to? For
Yes.
music? And she goes on this journey of I guess a character development, an arc, whatever you want to call it. She's figuring out who she is and what she values. And what I love is that everyone around her starts to see who she is and what she values in a different way. I
Yes.
just love the
Yes. You
way
nailed
she
that.
just kind of bursts out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you talk about that part of it and just Kalani's experience and writing this really thrilling murder mystery alongside of this really important character development with oh yeah, the history over here. How did you navigate all those layers so beautifully?
But you said it correctly. That a lot of the history is tied into the mystery itself. And I think that's critically important. And, oftentimes, when we think of settings and stuff, setting is very much a character in itself. And Martha's Vineyard is very much the main character in a lot of ways. Like, forget Kalani, you have to think about Martha's Vineyard as a main character. The infamous bridge, let's say, for instance, the infamous bridge that the boy was found at is called the Jaws Bridge. It's a bridge that oftentimes it's tradition that people would like jump off this bridge. It's a low bridge, so it's like into the ocean, so you're not like going crazy. But it's
Right.
it's thrilling enough that you're jumping into like deep water. And what people don't know is that Martha's Vineyard was actually the location where the movie Jaws was shot. And Jaws happened to just turn 50 years old this past month, like the actual movie. And for Kalani, she was very much a fish out of water on land.
Mhm.
She, at first did not. She's never been to something like Martha's Vineyard. She's never seen so many rich Black people before. So she felt very out of place, but she always stayed true to herself. And people really respected her for it. And so I think that is something that is a lesson in itself for kids to know when they start going out into the world and then they either, have too much money or not enough money, but they are, doesn't matter, you are who you are. And I think that that's you can be who you want to be and you are who you are no matter where you go, still be amazing
Yeah.
and people will still respect you. And I think that was like a larger lesson I was hoping to kind of instill in there without actually spoon feeding it to kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like even though not uh well, it isn't he is an integral part of the book, but dad is a big part of who Kalani is and what she believes and how she observes and what she takes in and what she thinks about herself.
Yeah.
such a big part of that. And so you also have that layered on, which is this unjust imprisonment of him. And she is on, I'm gonna figure this out
Yeah,
alongside with
yeah,
the
yeah.
country as well.
She's very much on a mission to save her father. So much so that she starts taking like all these secret lawyer classes. Which one of the things that I love about Connie is that there are a lot of kids like her. Like they know exactly who they want to be and what they want to do at a very early age. And one of the things that I hate most in their society is when we meet kids like that who are very confident and sturdy in their, who they are and who they want to be. It's a lot of insecure adults who would chip away at that, like, that's not really successful. Oh, you really can't do that. Chip away at that. And I wanted to kind of portray her as someone who knows exactly what she wants to do and she wants to see. She wants to be the youngest lawyer. And I think that's really important because there's so many kids who know exactly what they want to do, and it's very hard for adults to watch someone be so confident.
Yeah. I loved in the book the lesson that one of the lessons that she learns from dad is that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Yes, because he is, he's been fairly incarcerated and he is determined to still kind of like be in his daughter's life. And so he does like daily calls with her and stuff like that, still helps her math homework. Like he's still trying to instill his wisdom in her, even from a jail cell. And so I think that's very important to kind of like note that, especially because people oftentimes think like, oh, when your father or somebody goes away in your family, you go to prison, like that's it, you don't have any contact with them. And there's definitely different family dynamics, even in these types of circumstances. So I think it's I love that about their relationship in general, just like the father-daughter relationship.
Yeah. Tell me about his musical interests, though. I have to admit, I did some Googling about J.
You mean the music character that I completely made up?
But has but when you go look, there is
Yes.
there is some stuff that I was like, I have to ask her about this.
I didn't know this until copy edits, and the copy editor was like looking up like, oh, there's a J Rock out there. I'm like, what? And I really thought I just made up a cool rap name. And so, let's see how much I know. But yes, that is a connection that they have is that, he's very into music and stuff. And so he, instills that into his daughter, kind of loving, old school hip hop and stuff like that. Like there's so many connections that they have that makes her so observant. And she is not afraid to tell people like, yeah, I like this old school rapper. And people respect her too. When oftentimes kids will be like, ew, why do you like that person? Like it's an opportunity for her to kind of like still continue to like be true to herself and stand in her truth. And I love that.
Yeah. And I can't mention it, and so I won't mention it, but that ends up being something that comes
Something that
together at the end.
that comes together.
That's
Yes.
all I'll
Yes.
say, which I loved. I loved because it was something at first that was, portrayed as who are you listening to the
Yeah.
thing that just, might wrap the whole book together. I loved how that came together at the
Thank
end.
you.
So as you think of your first middle grade novel going out there into the world, what is your hope for the book or your hope for readers who end up with this
Mm.
book in their hands?
I think my hope, my first hope is that this book ends in the hands of children ultimately. I want to see more kids reading thrillers and horror and stuff like that. I want to see that more than anything. This book obviously anyone could read. I believe that adults should read more children's novels, just in general, just to learn about themselves. Sometimes it can be really helpful. And ultimately, I think the message I want to portray, to come across, in this novel is that despite, the heaviness that you have to deal with or, maybe surrounded by, it's still okay to have moments of joy,
Mhm.
uh, to still very much be a kid, to still kind of like laugh and play with your friends and still be silly and still kind of like, enjoy your life, despite everything you have to ultimately deal with later. It's still okay to have joy because joy is very much a revolution. And I don't think kids realizing that nowadays, right? Because there's so much heaviness and parents are so like, concerned about the or just, the world being on fire in general. I think it's important that kids know, especially in that age break, that there is something that they can do, obviously. They can always use their voice, but beyond that, the biggest thing that we as adults want them to do is to enjoy their life, enjoy being a kid. You'll never get that again. And so I think I'm hoping that that sort of like comes across as a message.
Oh, it will. It will. And it will be a story that they will just get lost into and find it inside those.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on to Kid That Love and
Thank
helping
you.
us be part of your launch. I'm beyond grateful that you took the
Thank
time to
you.
chat with me today.
No, thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. And I'm really excited for this book to be in the world, which it is available everywhere, including libraries as well. Shout out to libraries.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be here, honestly.
You. Where is the best place for listeners to find you online if they want to dive into your backlist and just keep up with what might be coming next with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, WriteandBK, that's WRITEINBK.com. You can also find me at WriteandBK on Instagram, what used to be Twitter, Threads, and Facebook.
All the places.
All the places.
I will put links to those in the show notes to make it easy for them to find you. And of course, I'll put links to your books, especially Blood in the Water, in the show
Yeah.
notes. And I'm just so grateful to be part of you launching your middle grade debut in the world. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.